Good morning, everyone. Welcome to TED Talks Ball. We got a special Wednesday morning hump day edition. Super excited to welcome Ryan from No Border Sports in. Ryan,
What is
you may
up?
know him at Border Sports on Twitter and No Border Sports on YouTube. Great content creator, great Twitter follow or X, whatever we're calling it these days. But Ryan, welcome. I just realized
Not much
though I
on
don't
Twitter
have
anymore.
your. Yeah, you're a smart man. Toxic as hell on there. I tell you what, I'm starting to not reply as much. I tried it yesterday, and I'm just gonna, I'm gonna reply to the people that are smart or that I like, and the rest, you can go pound rocks. I'll see what you say, maybe, but I'm not gonna respond to everybody like I used to. I'm not gonna try not to feed the trolls so much. There's no point. So here we go. Ryan at Border Sports on Twitter and X, and then No Border Sports on YouTube. And you can find the link to his YouTube channel in the description as well too. And we are streaming to both platforms. So if you're on TED Talks Ball, make sure to get on over to No Border Sports, I should say, and give him a like and
And vice
subscribe.
versa.
And same thing with me. Yeah, if you're watching on a a browser, open up two tabs. Watch us both at the same time. Or if you're on a phone and you can't do two tabs, maybe you have a tablet nearby and you can watch on two devices. So give us all the watch hours and likes and subscribes you can. We really appreciate it. It really helps us. I'm getting real close to 500. I think I was at 497 last I checked. So that'll be my first threshold for monetization to start it's allowing subscriptions to the channel, charging, I don't know what you charge, like $2-3, something like that. And then having super chats. So that'll be exciting. But we got some folks that are here in the house early. We got Bebop Jones saying yo, yo.
What up, Bebop?
And he's also saying anniversary of Woodstock was yesterday, 1969. Today would have been day number 2. Outstanding. So what we got?
You know the
54 years ago.
the
That's crazy.
the concert the concert that started essentially the idea to make a Woodstock actually happened in Washington State.
Ah,
There was a
that figures it.
Woodstock-esque concert beforehand, which was the inspiration for what happened in upstate New York.
Leave it to Ryan to take credit for Woodstock or his state. I love it. That's great.
No,
If
no.
anyone who doesn't know,
The
Ryan
people
lives
that
in Washington
participated,
State.
the
Well, you guys
people
have
that
the Gorge
participated in
up there too,
Woodstock
don't you? Like
deserve
the
all the credit.
Dead Company play up there.
Oh,
Didn't Dead Company just play up there recently at the Gorge?
I watched Dead and Company at the Gorge years ago with the Doobie Brothers and Allman Brothers, and oh my gosh,
Nice.
the Grateful Dead, well, the Dead and Company, whatever you call them, at
Yeah.
at sunset in the Gorge is one of the most gorgeous things ever, and like with their music, they almost like I was sober, and with their music, I was almost like seeing things. It was kind of crazy to be
That's
in
the way it works.
that situation. I was like, holy moly. It's
I went
beautiful
to
though.
plenty of Jerry Dead shows back in the day. Shoreline, Irvine, Cal Expo. Some of them I didn't even make it inside the show. Sometimes it was just fun to hang out in the parking lot, see the kind of characters you run into and things you can explore there. It was a lot of fun for sure. Um, Maybe not so good for the brain cells, but great experiences nonetheless. Got Nathan Z in the house saying what up. Welcome, Nathan. Thanks for joining. Joe Stevens in the house saying two legends, coming from a legend.
Legend
So takes one
himself.
to know one, Joe. Thanks. Appreciate it. Carcast in the house saying, yo, welcome, Carcast. Thanks for joining. Bebop saying Gorge is one of the best venues in the country. Outstanding. Yeah. Oh, another place I saw the Dead. I think the first place I saw them was Frost Amphitheater at Stanford, which is like a teeny tiny 3,000 seats. It's not even really seats. It's like dirt. It was such a cool experience. Kind of like the Greek in Berkeley, but the Greek's very concrete and Frost is very sort of more wooded. It's more like a picnic. But yeah, great dead shows, fish shows, what have you. Bebop saying, if not the best. Oh, for the Gorge. Okay, got it. One of the best, if
Yeah,
not the best.
it's an acoustics
John Jay.
there. Oh, it's
Yeah.
It's a spot. What up,
There
John
you go.
Jay? Make sure you go over
Brenner's
to
Ultimate
Ted's
Report in the
channel.
house.
I
Hump day. Yeah, and normally I block this time out to not do shows because I have gardeners and blowers outside my window pretty frequently. So if I go on mute, that's all it is. I'm trying to save you guys from the blowing sounds compared to my usual blowing sounds. Pause. But anyway, we'll make the best of it until they're done. In fact, I think I hear them coming now. Um, uh,
Are they breathing hard?
see, James Arnall in the house from the UK. Hey man, just finished work. Any news out of camp?
Oh, gotcha. Any news out of camp? Uh, yes. Not so far today. Not that I've heard. It's still young. People usually tight lip until afterwards. So there's usually a tweet or something that comes out, but I haven't been watching it. We got Joe Stevens here saying can't wait to hear a QB rant. Joe Stevens, you want to hear a running back rant? We could talk about running back rants. How maybe CMC might be a casualty early off in the season if we have a slow moving offense. We could talk about that later. You want to talk about that? We could do that. Darnold and Allen look good. Yeah, they did, but they also weren't facing, I don't know. It didn't seem like it was the same game when Darnold and Allen were playing. You know what I mean? Like the skill levels weren't matched or over proportionate as it was in the first half of the game.
That's exactly right.
And I thought Darnold played the best out of everybody, which was good to see. But he also only played a quarter. So to me, I'm not willing to just, tout Sam Darnold as a possible anything until we see more time from him, really, because it's just, you don't know. A quarter against third stringers doesn't mean he's good. And in fact, he should have probably tore up a little bit more if you would really want to be truthful. But I'm okay with that, and I'm not gonna knock him for anything.
There you go. Yeah,
You still got blowers.
No, I'm good for now.
If you put the little things up, I'll be able to tell when you're muted, and I'll be able to.
No, I think I should be back now. No,
you're back. I can hear you.
Okay. All right. So as far as the camp reports, there was some stuff from yesterday. I mean, all the QBs had pretty good completion percentages yesterday. Purdy threw another pick six. He also threw a catch that was a lot apparently like Trey Lance's TD catch, where it was like should have been an interception, but the DB didn't intercept it, and then Debo ended up catching it. But it sounds like Purdy might have had his best practice so far, which is encouraging, because as I was telling everybody in camp, and as we were hearing from Vegas, he was not looking like himself. The pick six is still a concern, but picks, in camp are not the hugest deal. They're not nothing. They're not everything. They mean a little something, but let's not read too much into them. It's just when you see them consistently over and over, that gets to be a little bit of a concern. But even then,
it's when they pile up.
Yeah. Just like the QB mistakes for Kyle, each time we could write each one off like, oh, nobody scouted Mahomes, and oh, Brady had a bad season, so I can see why we picked Jimmy. Jimmy's younger, and oh, Stafford, he was come from a bad team, and the Rams only won one with him, and oh, Purdy, he was a rookie. No one's going to put him above QB3 last year. But when you take the sum total and you look at it all, it's pretty damning. So I think that's sort of the same thing with Purdy with camp, joint practices, and now back to camp again. And I caution anybody who says that he's better or ready or anything like that. Like, the dude hasn't even been tackled yet. So keep that in mind, folks. Joe was saying Ted had a legendary rant yesterday. If you want to get me ranting, let's talk about the QB situation and Kyle not giving Lance a chance after he didn't give Purdy a chance last year. Purdy ended up QB3. And what happens if Jimmy G doesn't get injured last year? We have no freaking clue what Purdy could do. we'd be sitting on him as a backup. I guarantee you. So it makes me a little frustrated. He's then doing it again this year. I just want Kyle to learn. I'm a Shanna fan, but I'm pretty fed up with his QB gaffes and blunders.
See, I think he did better this game with Trey than I've seen before with him. It seemed like he really gave him the chance to shine. I don't think Trey
bullshit. He gave him all these pass plays. No, we're a run first team, man. You got to run first. You don't do 3 straight series with no runs, and then Arnold looks better. He's got 9 runs and 8 passes. You can't do a run fake without a run. You don't have to run well, but you got to run some to run fake.
You can do a run fake without running if you're a run first team. Now, because they're going to expect like you do. So, okay, that's not the issue. But also, I think, what did we need to see out of Trey Lance? We needed to see short, intermediate throws, him working well in the system. Right? So, Kyle Shanahan, whether he planned to go those plays or not, I don't really care. The reason being is we needed to see that from Trey. Right? This is what we need to see. Now, look, could it have been better if there were run plays in there? Maybe. But when I looked back at the tape, there was things open. And what I saw was Trey needs more trust. He needs more trust in 2 aspects. He needs more trust in the receivers and more trust in the system. Because there was things left on the table. Like, who was it put out? I think it was, what's his name? He's the guy who does all the tape review for our team.
JT O'Sullivan?
No. Because he does it throughout
Kyle
the league.
Posey?
No, it's one of the guys that kind of does more of like
Jack Hammer?
No, it's where he actually explains. I can't remember his name.
Johnny Dells?
He was. I wish. Yes, Johnny Dell. So he was showing that on the first play there, he was supposed to go to the 2 receiver side. Maybe it wasn't the first play, but the first play Johnny Dell was showing. He was supposed to go to the 2 receiver side because that's where the gimmick is. That's where the gimmick is. So Trey looks to the first side, right? So if you know the gimmick's over here, but you think you see something better over here, that's not what we need right now, Trey. But I mean, we don't need you to overthink. We need you to actually try and work the gimmick right now because that's what we need from you. So he didn't, right? They've called the play again. What did Trey do? He went to the double receiver side. So it shows that he's learning, but he wasn't trusting the system where the gimmick was set over on the one side. I don't think that he didn't know that the other side was the gimmick and he was just going, oh, let's just try this one on one side. I think something that said, I need to do this. You need to trust the system over here and work with the gimmick. The other thing is there was, you remember that when he got sacked standing up, it was like real early on. I think it might've been the first, actually, it might've been the first play and he was sacked standing up. He should have stepped back in the pocket. But if you look when he's supposed to go to his first feed, if you look, it was paused. JT O'Sullivan pointed this one out. It's paused. He's got a perfect throwing lane, and the receiver or the cornerback is off of him to the where this receiver is going to be coming back to the ball. So essentially, made more space against the cornerback. But the cornerback is close and essentially could make a play on the ball. But I don't think that's the case with Trey's arm. I think Trey can get there quicker, and I just don't think he trusted either the receiver or himself to make the throw in that situation. And that's what I think is really, and you take that and then he stares down the receiver just like Jimmy did. But then he's hesitant because he doesn't know if he can trust him, right? Johnny Dell pointed this out. I think he should just stare at the guy who is the crux of the play. I'm using vocabulary right. The guy who.
That's fine, yeah. Your primary receiver.
No, you don't be looking at him. You're looking at the safety or the linebacker, whoever is the person who is the one that determines who you throw to. Don't look at the receiver. Don't look at him. Once that guy makes his move, that's when you look and find your receiver and you make your throw. That's what I need out of him. And it seems like he doesn't have enough trust to do that. And I believe playing with these guys could develop that. But also remember, why did the 49ers really like Trey? No terms. You know what I mean? Kyle loves that. I think that's starting to hinder Trey at this point because he's trying to keep that standard, but he's got to redefine that standard and understand that's going to happen, and he has to get all these other ones that he could take that have a risk but have more reward by moving your team down the field instead of going 3 and out. So, and look, I'm a Trey fan. I love Trey. You know what I mean? I would rather have a guy with who I believe the capability that I believe Trey has. I would rather have him over the Brock Purdy and the capabilities that I think Brock has. But being said, it's what you show, and what I'm seeing now is everything I just described, and that doesn't help him. And the thing is I don't think there's really enough time to iron that out in training camp and preseason for him to take that next leap. I think he needs real game experience, and he needs to fall on his face a couple times, and I think that's where he's actually going to make these strides, and I don't think he's going to get the chance.
Doesn't look like it. Joe Stevens said Brock and Trey reminds me of another Washington reference because Twilight was filmed in Forks, right, up there in Washington. Yes. Brock and Trey debate reminds me of Team Edward and Team Jacob in middle school. Haha. I was definitely Team Jacob for what it's worth. I don't know that either of the QBs really equates to those characters, though, because they're both pretty good guys.
And I want to go on record saying I never watched that movie.
Smart man. I would never have, but I would never have. But when you're dating girls, they drag you to these things.
I know.
It was certainly not of my own volition, but it was hard to avoid.
P.S. I love you.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I mean rom-coms and romantic tearjerkers. It's no doubt about it.
That one was a train wreck, bro. That one was a train wreck.
So, there were some good comments in here, though. Real quick, said I've never seen that.
Darnold has been lively in chat.
Yeah, looks like he pieced out, but we still got some good stuff to go through here. Randy was saying with limited reps, you don't need to have handles going on preseason games. The thing is, I just felt like Kyle sabotaged Trey. I felt like we're a run first team. Our run to pass count is almost always 50-50 every season, and which is very, very high for the NFL. It's usually top 5, a lot of times top 2 in the NFL for percentage of runs. And I think, I get the thing, you want to see Trey throw, but if you want to see him be successful and move the ball, you got to run the ball as well. And especially, with the straight drops, if you watch JT O'Sullivan, he's not a big fan of Trey's straight drop game. Not Trey, Kyle's straight drop play calling game. And I posted a clip of one where he basically said Lance overcame bad coaching to make this completion, this little short out to the side after Kyle, called was essentially a very vanilla play that's run by every team in the NFL. And, I felt like our O-line didn't protect Lance. I felt like our weapons didn't separate that well, or when they did, Trey didn't have time to hit them. I'm not going to make a lot of excuses. I'm not going to say Trey played well. He didn't. But I think there were a lot of good reasons for why he didn't. And I think Kyle is a big one, and the O-line is another big one. And the Raiders, I think like one of the titles of one of my shows this week was Raiders win their Super Bowl last Sunday. Like that was they were playing for all the marbles. It's the only time they're going to beat a Super Bowl contender is in the preseason. That's not going to happen during regular games, in my opinion. So I don't know. We'll see.
And
but,
I wasn't
a lot of
like trying to blame Trey for any of that. I just was, talking about what I think he needs to work on because, oh my God, that offensive line was atrocious.
It was atrocious. And Christopher says Trey showed he's not close now. We don't have to pretend he is. Nothing wrong with it. Just continue to let him work. He wasn't in that game, but I'll tell you, he's clearly going to be rusty after nearly a year since playing tackle football. And
he got better in the second quarter.
And the weapons, you're really not going to know what he is. And I'll tell you what, we don't really know what Purdy is. He hasn't looked great in camp or joint practices. So, and he hasn't been tackled. So, I mean, I have my doubts about Purdy too. I want to see them head to head. Why won't Kyle do it? It's ridiculous to me that there's not a competition, that he's just installing. I mean, I could understand installing Purdy, based off his record last year if he hadn't been injured, but he has been injured and he hasn't been the same. So until he is, I don't think it's fair to just say oh, he's the de facto number one and he has to melt in practice he's been kind of melting in practice, I mean, that's the thing. So
can we talk about that? Melting. I understand what he's trying to represent, I guess, but there is no, it's almost like, a color isn't really a specific color. It's just a spot on a spectrum, right? Well, saying somebody's melting is essentially like that. So it's not like, you know what I mean by color on the spectrum?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a sliding rule. So what point on the spectrum are you talking about, Kyle? Because the melt goes all the way down. You know what I mean? If he's got there's signs leading up to that where you could divert away from that. You know what I mean? It's like he's been injured. He might not be the same person, right? So give him all the reps and you realize week 3, it's not getting any better, bro. Then you've effectively taken all those reps that could have been divvied out a little more to other people to have them be better by that time to take over the role, to put you in a better better situation going forward. And I don't see how he can't see that. You know what I mean?
I agree. Steve-O Supremo in the house saying just here to put some beer in his tears. I haven't heard that saying before, but I like it. And then Carcast in the house. He's got a great podcast as well. Everybody make sure and check him out. Got Smitty in the house saying still crying about QB starter. Yeah, I mean, oh, he means me. I was like, I mean, until Purdy proves it, I'm going to be second guessing. I'm rooting for Purdy. I want him to do well. I just don't think he can take us to the promised land. And that's really what he's got to do to make me say it was the smart move. We got to take 6, and anything less than the Super Bowl win this year, I'm going to have questions. Of
we're still maybe searching.
Could Lance have done better?
We're still searching, kind of.
Yeah. I mean, we've been to the NFC Championship, 3 out of the last 4 years, and the Super Bowl once. Jimmy's made it further than Brock twice. He completed an NFC Championship game and he won one. All right, he didn't win it, but he led the team that won it. I'll give him that. So somebody says Brock is the guy. I mean, I don't even think Brock was the guy last year. Honestly, I think he was kind of mid. I mean, first of all, let's be real clear. When I say mid, that's an incredible compliment for a rookie quarterback. I don't know of any other rookie quarterback ever that I would say was maybe Roethlisberger, but he was carried by a great defense and the bus and, Hines Ward and some good weapons on that team. So, yeah, I mean, Brock is a guy. All right. He's a guy. He's middle of the pack, and that's real good for a rookie, but he's not a rookie anymore, and he's been injured, and he hasn't looked like that so far. Now, we haven't seen him in a game. I understand that. And by the time he plays in the game, hopefully he's got it together. And then I'll be happy to say, not that I was wrong, because I was not wrong about what I saw. Just be happy to say, look, he's improved. And that's what we're all hoping. So I want to make that clear to everybody. I'm not rooting against Purdy. I like him a lot.
I
I
would
just
like
like
to.
it's better.
I would like to kind of. Brock definitely was the guy last year. Okay, when he was playing, there was nobody else on the team that could do anything close to he did. And the guy who he took over for, I think he did a better job running the offense. Now, I think Jimmy was better with the. I think Jimmy was a little cautious with the ball at times last year, and it was really freaked that had happened. But if you saw, Purdy was almost getting a ball intercepted at least once a game. They just couldn't reel it in, which sometimes it's just because they weren't in the right position. If they took a step over, they would be in perfect position. It would hit them in the chest. Some defensive players, they still might not catch it, but it gets it a little more scarier. I think there was definitely things he needed to work, but if he hadn't have got injured, we might have a way difference. There might be no contest at this point, because Purdy would have been able to spend a whole offseason just stacking on his knowledge and his work instead of having to redo his arm. Let's face it, it's hard to do what you need to do as a quarterback if you can't throw. Okay, you can get your foot timing down, but you want to be able to do the throwing motion when you get to your foot position, and your timing for your dropbacks and all that stuff. So I think there's a definite things. If he hadn't got injured, we might know week 5, week 6 that he could be the guy, like going further. But right now, we kind of hit a speed bump. He definitely had regressed. Okay. It happens when you get an injury and come back. That's why I started when he came back people were all mad. He's like, why are we talking to? He can't even go. He can't essentially do everything in practice. Why are we critiquing his throws right now? Obviously, the arm isn't ready. You know what I mean? So I wasn't even wanting to entertain talks of him being this or that, because to me, his arm hasn't been cleared to throw. So anything he's throwing that doesn't look right, I don't give a shit about. There could be, you know what I mean? He's got to be able to trust the job that's done in his arm. There's lots of things that need to go down. So for him to hit those throws, those long balls like he used to, there's trust in there. You're testing that thing as hard as violently as you can at that point in time. So who knows? He says there's no mental. Could be.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's yeah. I mean, there's 3 mental hurdles that Purdy's going to have to, clear now that he's supposedly 100% physically, which I still have my doubts about. The first mental one is, do you trust your arm to really rip it? Sounds like he's there. The second one is, are you synced up with your weapons? His high completion percentage from yesterday is starting to show that, it looks like. But the big one, like I mentioned earlier, is, can you hang in the pocket knowing you're going to get smeared and wait for your weapons to uncover to the last possible second, knowing that you're going to get drilled, and get up and still, be able to have the same confidence again after that happens? Can he not get hurt, and can he not have mental scars? That's, those are big questions for sure. Bryant Culp in the house saying, hey, Ted and Ryan. Real quick, I want to call out Rich Keltz too. Was up above. I don't know where to go. But anyway, Rich said hi.
Rich.
He said something about that we thought we were farting and it was more of a shart. It looked like, or a SHI, what.
The game? That's a great description for the game.
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah, right here. 49ers thought they farted, but they sharded. Or it looks like 4 letters, so maybe not sharded. But anyway, I thought that was funny.
My
so
title is how the 49ers shit bed.
There's layers to farting, apparently. Many layers. He loves to say that. Anyway, Smitty had a comment I wanted to get to here. Jimmy was throwing picks and we went to the Super Bowl. That means nothing. Well, Smitty, riddle me this. How many pass attempts did Jimmy have between halftime of the Vikings game, so the whole second half of the Vikings game, and then the whole NFC Championship game? How many pass attempts did Jimmy throw? If you don't know, the answer is 12. And that's 6 quarters. That means
So
Jimmy threw a whopping total of 2 pass attempts per quarter, Smitty. And we went to the Super Bowl and he threw 2 picks and he overthrew Sanders and he missed Kittle a number of times and we lost. So I say it matters.
I think you guys kind of both right. And let me explain. He's right. Jimmy throwing all those picks got us to the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? And it wasn't able to.
No, it was the number 2 run
factor.
game and the number 2 defense got us to the Super Bowl, and Jimmy Luggage got carried.
Right. But what he's saying is Jimmy was throwing picks and we went to the Super Bowl. And that, you know what I'm saying? He's saying that with all these picks, which is true. But it does mean something because Kyle Shanahan did essentially put the handcuffs on Jimmy. That's how bad the interceptions was. So whether it means it doesn't totally mean nothing because Kyle was prompted to stop Jimmy from throwing. And that's big. I couldn't believe Jimmy finally had like a really good year not throwing picks, and it was his last year with us. Like he was, I gotta get this nipped in the butt now. Where was this 4 years ago, bro?
I know. It's frustrating. Hiroski had a couple I liked. Purdy was blitzed constantly in the Miami game. Yeah, Ryan jumped in. I did my first ever live stream of a game during the Dolphins game, and Ryan and NJ Izzy, Melissa joined in for the second half with me. That was a lot of fun. Purdy did really well, especially coming in cold. I mean, that's incredible performance by Purdy against the Dolphins. No doubt about it. And then Jimmy is gone, and I'm happy for it. Me too. You should have seen that I was doing a stream with Dion from Niner Game Podcast, and he and I were just like laughing, and I think he broke out and did a shot of whiskey, and we were so happy. And then I was like, wait, but he hasn't passed the physical yet. And sure enough, it was like months later until that was finally done, and then we could really celebrate. But yeah, thank goodness Jimmy's gone. Somebody asked me in a show this week, if Jimmy does well, could we ever have him back on the Niners? I'm like, no, that chapter's closed. I hope we never see him in red and gold again. We need to do better. We need to aim higher.
How come people can't see the parallel to Jimmy's story with Brock Purdy?
Oh, it's like, well, not only that, but just their stats. I mean, the stats with CMC in the 5 regular season games are like clones. It's like the Spider-Man meme. They're like the same but different, right? They have the same results, but like they do it differently. Jimmy's better on the first read. Purdy's better when things break down and improvising, but their net result is like so similar. It's spooky, especially when you factor in that, you know, the defense was forcing way more turnovers for Purdy than for Jimmy. And, you know, and I'll say it again, and I'll say it again, and I'll say it again. You know, Purdy's 33 points per game was versus mostly bad and or banged up defenses. So, and it's a very small sample size, which is prone to statistical anomalies. So if you think he's going to walk in and score 33 again this season, I got a bridge to sell you. That's all I can tell you, especially if he plays all 17 games against the Cowboys, against the Eagles, against, we were playing some good defenses this year. So, I don't know. We'll see. There'll probably some little surprises.
Would that bridge be in Brooklyn?
There is a big bridge in Brooklyn. There's a big one here in the Bay. Actually, there's 3 or 4 in the Bay. We got the Dumbarton, San Mateo, but of course the Golden Gate, the Richmond Bridge up north that connects Marin to Richmond. Those are 4 of the big ones here in the Bay Area. But yeah, I mean, I'll sell you any one of them if you're looking to buy some baloney, we'll call it in a nice way. Michael Catanzaro in the house says, if this is not our year with 3 QBs, we should sign a big name QB in 24 free agent, maybe QB in the 2024 draft if we get Cousins OL in the first round. Yeah, Cousins does well when he's protected, and a lot of people hate on him, but keep in mind he's barely had a defense since he's been in the Vikings on the Vikings, and the 1 year he did have a good defense was the year he ran into us. Just like I said, the number 2 D and the number 2 run game, and we just ran it down their throats when it showed that Jimmy couldn't be trusted to throw it in the first half. Jimmy threw it to Kendrick, and then he threw it, and Kendricks caught it, and he threw 2 more to Kendricks, and Kendricks dropped them. So it was basically 3 potential interceptions. Kyle pulled the plug on Jimmy until we got to the Super Bowl, essentially. Jimmy passing with any frequency, I should say.
Who are we going to get rid of to get Kirk Cousins an offensive line that he can?
I don't want him. I'm just saying I would have maybe liked him back in 2018.
So we're not. There's
Instead
no
of
chance
Jimmy.
we resign Ayuk. There's no chance we resign Ayuk. Okay. Who else are we getting? Probably George Kittle, I'm guessing.
Someone like that, or Deebo.
Less left on his contract. I don't think you're moving
I think
Deebo.
It's Kittle this year. Last year was insane.
Kittle, you'd have to get rid of him.
And then that's hurting your O-line right there.
Yes, it is. And then you got to get somebody. You got to lose somebody else because your 49ers don't have any draft picks to overhaul that line in the first and second round. I don't think, because some of them aren't going to work out. And you're talking about next year, so probably going to have to go get vets. They cost more. It's not a good look. If only somebody would have thought about drafting tackles last couple of years and not switching them to guards.
Tristan Wirfs instead of Kinlaw.
No, not even there. I don't even care about the first round. I'm talking about we should have had tackles coming in every year, trying to find at least 1 or 2 replacements for our starters to have on the squad already. To me, this is negligent of them and the offensive line coach and coaching staff and front office to not think about this. I understand they thought they have a guy in McKivitz. Okay. None of us know that. The 49ers don't even know that. You should be in a situation where you know that you got a guy. And you could have started thinking about this 3 years ago. Who cares if Trent doesn't retire yet? Oh, the guy's going to be coming to his contract? Well, you should have thought about that before and drafted another guy to take a spot on the depth chart. And then trade that guy, get some capital for him. You should always, the way they have mucked up this offensive line situation is just, it's not advantageous to win in another Super Bowl.
It's not. I mean, especially with the depth we saw on Sunday, it's really scary. And I don't even know if I trust McKivitz on the starting O-line either. So O-line is scary for sure. He started out camp well, but then he kind of faded later into camp. So we'll see how many fans the Niners lose with the outcome of winning. A lot potentially. Hersky says 0. Now there's a lot of people that are unhappy with Kyle's QB stuff, like me, and this could be the last straw of being a Shanna fan. But we'll see. I know
Waruna.
If we win number 6, then I don't care who it is. Then that's all great. I just don't believe Purdy has what we'll need. I don't think he can deliver what the 49ers need to get there and win it, especially when you consider how healthy we were last year to start the playoffs. Like, we were basically missing just Emmanuel Mosley, and Lenore played really, really well, maybe arguably better than Charvarius Ward. And so you don't really miss Mosley that badly. And then we're missing, Trey Lance and Jimmy G. But if Purdy stays healthy, you're not really missing them either. So it's about as healthy as you can get rolling into the playoffs. And so if you think we're going to be that healthy rolling into 2023, I got Bryant had a funny comment. He said, I only bet Subway sandwiches. So he was making Jimmy G comments. So does that mean that it's that it's here. I only bet Subway sandwiches. Does that mean it's a Italian combo? If you're such a big Jimmy G fan, because he was saying, Ted, give Jimmy some credit. You played QB. You know it's also important to be able to hand the ball off. Not everyone can play QB. Maybe Jimmy was hurt. That's why Kyle took the ball out of his hand. Jimmy was not hurt going into the Super Bowl. Well, maybe he did get hit on that knee. I think it was during the season, though. But bottom line is, all right, I did play QB. And yeah, I know how important handing off the ball is, because that's why I lost my job. I was too freaking slow to hand off to our league leading rusher. I had a cannon of an arm, but I could not keep up with this amazing running back. He had, in 8 games, he had over 1,300 yards to lead our league in rushing. And so, yeah, I know exactly how important handing off is. That's great, but it's not a great QB to me. It isn't. That's just a guy who hands off. And it's just, when we're looking at what you need to win in this league, it's a passing league. And I know we kind of zig when a lot of other teams zag, and I see some value in that. But ultimately, I think we need more from the QB position than what Brock Purdy can deliver, what Jimmy G was able to deliver. And I just think the whole point guard thing is overrated. I think you do need a guy with a big arm to keep a safety out of the box, and ideally some top speed, so that you're forced to spy the quarterback, so that one defender is out of the box and then one of the defenders left in the box is eyes on the quarterback, not looking at Debo, Kittle, Ayuk, the running backs. You get more running and more yak that way when you only have basically 7 in the box instead of 9 in the box. It makes a huge freaking difference. All things equal, which they're not equal right now. I'm not saying they are, but I just feel like the things that Purdy does better can be learned. The only elite trait that Purdy has that can't be learned is quickness, and that's it. Lance is taller, bigger, faster, and a cannon of an arm, and none of those make you great. And there's plenty of people who had all those and aren't great. But if you have all those and you can learn to do some of the stuff that Purdy does, you can be a lot better than what Purdy is, in my opinion. That's my spiel.
So I got a question for you.
Yeah.
If the 49ers start out slow, do you think Christian McCaffrey finishes the season without being injured?
No.
Starts the last
game. Kyle will ride him into the ground, just like Lance, just like he was kind of doing it last season. I mean, that's the only guy he trusts. So, and Mitchell, if Mitchell could stay healthy, then I think there's a fighting chance or if Mason can live up to what we think he could be, or TDP somehow does, maybe. But otherwise, if
do you think he'll allow them? Because you know how he gets.
Mason keeps dropping catches, and
he has target asphyxiation. Kyle does. When you're the big mover and shaker on the team, and you're getting all you get all the looks, you get all the things, and you get broken down by the end of the year. Because Kyle just can't think anybody else can do it on a team full of superstars.
There you go. Yeah. No, I'm with you. Collie Young in the house. He's been coming at me on the timeline recently. Love Collie.
Shout out to Collie.
I appreciate if you don't call me Cone 2.0. I'm not freaking Grant Cone. I'm my own person. I have my own takes. I disagree with Grant. He helped me, and I appreciate him, and we do agree on some things, but not on everything. So I'm definitely not a Cone clone. I have my own ideas. But he said, but Trey has it, right? No, Trey does not have it yet. But the thing is, we don't know. He could have it right now, and we wouldn't know because he hasn't been with the number one O-line, and he hasn't been with the number one weapons except for a couple practices, not in any games. So I'm just saying we need to find out, Collie. That's it. I'm not saying that, and I didn't say that Lance would be QB1. I'm saying there should be a fair competition. That's all I'm saying. And I don't understand why people are so against a fair competition. It doesn't make sense. We didn't have one last year. Purdy ended up QB3 last year. And if Jimmy didn't get hurt, we wouldn't even know what Purdy is right now. We'd be just like, oh, yeah, he's a good little backup, Mr. Irrelevant. We got a cheap backup. That's great. Nice, and we'd be just sitting on him until somebody got hurt. I just don't want our best QB to not see the field until the other QB gets hurt or plays badly for an extended period of time, which means puts us behind in this race with the Eagles and the Cowboys that I see us needing everything to do because we have minus 20 rest days. It's the worst in the league. There are 3 teams with plus 12, the Bears, the Jets, and one other. And, that's 32 more days in a 4.5-month season of rest. It's a huge freaking advantage for them, huge disadvantage for us. We have the second most travel miles, and we play 4 teams coming off of buys, which is way higher than it should be because most teams usually have 1 bye a year. So that's 4x the what your average should be of teams coming off buys against you. So, I just feel like we got enough stacked against us without starting the wrong quarterback at first. And I'm not saying Purdy's wrong. I'm just saying we don't know. I'm just saying he got injured and he hasn't looked good in camp. And so just to say that he's what he was, he hasn't been. He could be. I hope he is. It sounded like he was getting to that yesterday. So maybe we'll get some more good news out of camp today. But again, if you're not going to worry about his camp interceptions, I'm not going to really worry about him having high completions percentage in camp either, because it's just practice. So like, if you want to discount the bad stuff, then I'm going to discount the good stuff. But I'm not discounting either. Ultimately, I think none of it means everything, but it all means something. So.
Yeah. And that's, I wish we could actually see this stuff so we could have context to everything. Because, look at the interception that, who was it? Bell. He almost caught that ball, went through his hands. Oh. Should that interception be on the quarterback?
No, hell no. Just like Trey's touchdown shouldn't be on his. Box score scouting can be very misleading. It's just like that, right? Trey throws a TD, should have been an interception. Allen throws an interception, should have been a catch. Like, that is a perfect example of why you can't just scout the box scores. You need to watch. You need to understand the context and why it happened and what it means for the future. That's the value we provide as content creators is deeper understanding. But I'm sorry, I cut you off, Ryan. Go ahead.
No, you're good. And if Brock is like 12 from 15, right? 12 of 15. Okay, that's great. Were they all within 2 to 3 yards of the line of scrimmage? You know what I mean? Or is he pushing ones? Is he pushing them out there? What's the completion percentage on those? That gives you more context.
That was something that really encouraged me yesterday from camp. Was apparently he completed a nice deep ball, which he really hadn't in camp before. Like, everything in camp was short or long, and on the deep balls for Purdy. So that encourages me that he hit a deep throw, because that was a big area of concern for me. So yeah, type of throw Purdy, matters.
With Purdy to get back to being the player that he was last year, he needs everything in his arsenal. And that deep ball of his, whatever you want to call it, it's not as deep as other people's, right? But it's his deep ball. If he doesn't have his deep ball, it makes things worse for him. If the league knows he doesn't have a deep ball, the game's up. He's screwed. Welcome to a stuffed box.
No doubt. Emiliano says, welcome, Emiliano says, I had to watch the Rattay and Erickson years. I paid my dues. Yeah, we had some bad years there from about 2002 to 2010. And then again, 14, 15, and 16 were pretty abysmal. Real quick, for John Jay in the house, welcome, John Jay. Check out this podcast. I'll always watch 49ers game, even if we go 0-17 or 17-0, and when a Super Bowl, real fans will watch their team no matter what. Absolutely, I will always watch. I'm just saying that if Kyle screws up this Lance thing, I may not be a Kyle fan anymore. I may be like, all this time I've been a Shanna fan, and just, and lately I've been saying he's a genius, but not with QBs. And now we got to say 3rd round picks, looking at Latu, and I'm too early to say on either Latu or Moody, but so far it hasn't looked good. So, really the only 3rd round pick that we got right since Kyle's been here is Fred Warner. So I'm saying QBs and I was saying just 3rd round running backs, and I've expanded it to just all 3rd round picks except for Fred have been bad. So, hopefully TDP works out. Hopefully Moody works out. Hopefully Latu works out. I guess even Jair Brown is technically a 3rd round pick too, right? Because he was a comp pick that we moved up into the 3rd round for. So
I think Latu is going to make the team, even though he's probably the weakest one in the tight end room. Well, one of the weakest.
Well, he blocks well and he runs good routes. So It's not
Yes.
all bad. It's because he's just got to learn to hold on to the ball.
Well, yeah, but also like I've heard other things about him. He's just the drops, not just holding on to it as far as dropping putting a fumble on the ground, but I just think see Kali's I'm just fed up with bias analysis. Now, bias analysis is okay as long as the bias is out there, if it's explained. Like I said, I'm a Trey fan, right? That doesn't mean that I
So am I.
hate Brock Purdy. You know what I mean?
I
It's
don't.
just
I
that
like him a lot.
I really want to see what we have in Trey. We gave up a lot for him. And I think the young man has a lot of potential. That doesn't mean that I don't want to see Brock Purdy become a Super Bowl winning quarterback for us or any other team. I really, you know what I mean? I just want to see the best for both these gentlemen. It's just he says also he wants you to keep the same energy when Trey starts throwing INTs, which I know I personally have. It depends on what's going on in the play. Sometimes some of the reporters in camp will give you context and all this and that. Sometimes they don't. So when you get context to situation, then you can actually kind of check that in an actual box. When you just hear, oh, Trey threw an interception today, I just kind of, okay, we'll put that in the back of the mind because we have no context about that. But if we keep hearing Trey threw an interception, Trey threw his third interception to a linebacker today, that you got the context for all those other three, and then you can bring them to the front ground. I just don't think we can really get everything by what happens in practice, because we've seen everybody in practice as a quarterback really suck, except for Brandon Allen. So, like, throughout our time in this regime, Jimmy sucked. Nick Mullins, he sucked, but he tried everything. You know what I mean? Like, everybody sucked in practice. So it's what we see on the field. And what I saw on the field yesterday or from Sunday from Trey Lance was it wasn't the best, but also there was things to take away that showed that he could do better. He changed things up from the first quarter to the second quarter. He also made a great unscripted play, looking like he was going to run out of bounds and get as much yards as he can, and then dumped it off and almost a no-look pass. I think that was great to see, because that's one of those it factors that I think he has. So I really in that game wanted to see his intermittent passes, and he showed them off, and they weren't necessarily anything to brag about, but they were better. I think his biggest issue is trust. He doesn't trust the receiver to turn around and do what they need to do on time, which is extremely big in the Shanahan scheme. So it's kind of like, why wouldn't you just automatically trust them? They're held to a very high standard in the wide receiver room about their routes. They're held to the same standard you're held to. So why aren't you doing your part in that situation? That's what I really want to ask Kyle, or not Kyle, but Trey, is like, you're just put the ball where it's supposed to go. You don't have to worry about, oh, is this guy too close or this guy is this and that. The scheme is supposed to take care of that. Throw that ball. If it gets intercepted, Kyle says, why'd you throw that? Because the scheme tells me when I hit the back foot right here, I look over that way and I'm supposed to throw the ball if there isn't a guy in between us. You know what I'm saying? That's what I would tell Kyle. Your scheme is supposed to get that open, right? I did exactly what you said. Get it open. You need to call another play before you call that play to get that play open. Don't come to me about this. That's your scheme. Figure it out. That's what I would be telling Kyle. I would do exactly what I'm supposed to do in each situation. And when I come up with a certain, if I'm in the wrong, obviously I take credit for it. But if I'm doing exactly what he wants, I don't care about that interception. That's Kyle's interception. That's not my interception. I'm doing exactly what Kyle wants me to do in this situation. If it gets intercepted, that's on him. He didn't obviously make the defense need to look at something else before he called this play. So then that would be open. That's how I would figure it.
I like that. I love that take, actually, Ryan. That's brilliant. It makes a lot of sense because Purdy does exactly what Kyle
Does
wants.
exactly that.
And I've been starting to say, like, I'm starting to wonder if Kyle even wants a franchise QB, like an Aaron Rodgers or a Brady or a Stafford or whatever. It feels like he would rather have a mid robot who does what he wants and fits the system rather than fit the system to the strengths of the quarterback. It's one of my gripes, but I love what you're saying. I hope Trey does learn to, get a little more YOLO like Purdy is, and just you only live once, and just rip it, and interceptions be damned. Maybe that does help explain the Purdy interceptions in camp a little bit too. That's starting to click with me a little bit for sure. Collie said, "Oh, it was hot garbage, but Trey wasn't good. It wasn't all bad, but Trey has a ways to go." Yeah.
Yes.
O-line was garbage. I'd say the weapons also didn't separate very well, and when they did, they stutter stepped and ran some bad patterns, and the blocking, not just the O-line was bad, but TDP was bad as a blocker as well too. So, and Trey has ways to go. Yeah. The thing is though, he has a ways to go based on what we saw on Sunday, but based on what we see this Saturday and in our last preseason game, he may not have a ways to go. That's what I'm trying to say is, like,
he's got a ways to go as far as box being checked. We don't know what the time frame on all those boxes being checked is, and that's the biggest issue.
It could happen by week 1. It could happen. I'm not saying it's likely. I'm just saying it's possible.
It could happen
especially
2 years
if you
from
get
now.
Protection and real weapons.
Yeah.
Well, we've got compare the two, we've got to see Lance with Debo, with Kittle, with CMC, and Ayuk. Got to see him with the big 4, and ideally Juice and Jennings too, right? Maybe Elijah Mitchell too, just since we did see some of Purdy with that. So I think that's what we need to see to make a real comparison between these two QBs. And I really hope Kyle gives us some of that. I hope he does, because you really can't condemn Lance until you see them with similar situations. And Sunday was not similar to anything we've ever seen Purdy with since he took over against the Dolphins. So the issue is trust receiver, not his own eyes, indecisive. Yeah, he was indecisive. Trey looked better once he scripted plays were done with, which isn't too surprising since he and Sam barely practiced leading up to the game on Sunday. Yeah, I mean, Purdy's gotten the lion's share of the reps lately, which, I guess that makes sense. As long as Purdy ends up being what he was in 2022, then I'm with it. I just haven't seen it or heard of it yet. Ryan wouldn't start for Kyle. He doesn't want to answer back player. Yeah, well, I mean, that also, is Kyle. He's got to.
I'm not intimidated by him. So I would have no problems telling him his shit stinks. And that's something he does not want to have a conversation about.
There you go. I brought this up. Speaking of Kyle, I brought this up, I don't know, yesterday or Monday. Do you think, I mean, obviously Purdy doing well last year and thinking he's going to be back to that this year is part of the reason why Kyle's, aced Lance out, hasn't given him a shot. But do you think part of it is because he went to Jeff Christensen and Mahomes, and basically it wasn't Kyle's idea? It wasn't John Beck or Scangarello who Kyle set him up with? You don't think there's any retribution for that?
No.
Okay. Because I wouldn't put that past Kyle personally.
I at this point,
maybe that's tinfoil hat.
I think it's tinfoil hat because I think at this point Kyle would be welcoming to anything. Why would you be mad that you might have a quarterback coming into your camp who you gave up all this capital for, thought had all this potential, who might be on the right track to be showing you the potential that you wanted? So I don't think that's the case. I think if Kyle really wanted to mess with Trey, he would have stuck him in the pocket all game long and would have just let them eat him up. And Kyle mixed the pocket passing with the bootlegs. He did a lot that we had asked Kyle to do, and we're appalled that he didn't think of it first, right? And he came out and he showed, I was like, hey, he's doing what I wanted. You know what I mean? Not like he heard me, But I think he heard all of us. I think we all had that feeling like, hey, we know he's not a pocket passer. Move him around at certain points and have him be in the pocket at other points. We know that he needs to learn how to be an adequate pocket passer. That's just something. If you're going to be a quarterback in this league, you should learn how to be able to do that. Maybe not down in and down out, but like as far as series in and series out, but like you should be able to navigate plays in a pocket as a quarterback in this league. So I think it was a good play. That's why you were mad about the running game. I was like, yeah, we got to see a lot of throws though. But at the same time, like if we would have came out and run at them, we might have tired down that defense a little bit. That's one thing that, well, what up, Chardall? That's one thing that had come from that. And that might have made the rush not as bad in the beginning. Because I remember as an offensive lineman and playing games, man, the first quarter, first couple series, I thought I wasn't going to be able to last the game. And then them big defensive guys, they tire down. And they become squishy. You can start pushing them around. I'm not saying that's what it's like in the NFL. All I know is that you're going from guys who haven't been playing anything to now they start playing the game and they've got all this energy to, an hour in the game and they've been using up a lot of energy. So to me, it's, I don't know. I just don't think we can gauge everything off of that showing. We saw him get better as the quarter went on.
We started to run the ball. We had 2 runs to open the TD drive, and all of a sudden Lance is in rhythm. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was running. You run first. You got to run at least once in each series. I mean,
but also, ridiculous. What happened at that time? Kyle was able to put together a game plan, knowing
some gimmies, some layups,
what the Raiders were throwing at him. And so then you start seeing Kyle's corrections probably also help Trey. So I don't think it's just a one-handed event. I don't think Kyle went in there to even try and win that game. I felt he tried to go in there to put people in situations where he could see what they do when there's no good scenario. You know what I mean? Not necessarily really put him in that, but kind of you're going to get that when you're just trying to see what people have. Like some of the plays are very vanilla. He's not even running complex schemes, right? The reason being is that's not going to fool anybody. So people have to make an individual effort to make the play work. You have to have the whole team make individual efforts to make the play work because you're not fooling anybody. So to me, I think that's kind of what his game plan was, is kind of go out there, be very vanilla, make people have to show themselves to actually be able to complete things, to do things. And I think that's what we got from it.
Was that shit show. Real quick, Emiliano came up with something funny. He was talking to Judge Schutte, who said, are you trying to be clever with the name thing? And Judd was saying, no, it's a spell check, but I don't think he meant your handle, Judd, like Judge Schutte, like Judge Judy. I think that's what it's supposed to be. Maybe, I don't know. Or maybe that's just his real name, Judge Schutte. And it does, now that I say it, it sounds sort of like Judge Judy. I think that's what Emiliano meant when he said that, not your message, your handle. Anyway, got Jess from East Coast Red and Gold in the house. It's preseason. Jess? Who's game planning for preseason? Agree, Ryan. You most certainly wanted to see what the Raiders were game planning for preseason. It was their Super Bowl, Jess. That's why one of my show titles was, Raiders won their Super Bowl Sunday, because they absolutely game planned. They gave it their all. It was they gave it their everything, and they really wanted to win, and they did. They blew us out in preseason. Woo! Our scrubs, our second string, third string, fourth string. So,
what was Steve Wilkes doing?
What was Steve Wilkes? Steve Wilkes was like, he was missing Hargrave, Armstead, Fred, Dre, Charvarius, Lenore, Huff, Gibson. I mean, all the studs on our D were gone. So
I got you.
The people getting after Kinlaw and Isaiah Oliver and Womack, those guys had no help. No help.
But they, like the Raiders.
Ambry played well. Ambry played real well.
Raiders were running the ball nonstop. Okay.
Yeah.
So
because our D line was getting washed out.
Okay, so we need to bring a different front. Okay. We need to bring a different front. There's things we could do to at least attempt to stop it. I didn't see that. I seen us sticking with the same stuff, and I want to see correct. I don't care if you got to take the third linebacker out and substitute him with the lineman. I don't care. Do it. It's preseason. Let's figure out what we got on this line.
A bear front like they ran against the Rams.
Let's do it.
Pats ran against the Rams in the Super Bowl. 60 linemen.
5-2, baby. 5-2.
Or 5-2, 5 or 6.
However you want to do
linebacker, 60 linemen. Yeah, why not?
I just, if you know what they're going to throw at you, then at least stop the run. Show us we can stop the run. Let them pass on us all game. I don't care. At least let us stop the run.
Joe Stevens in the house. Your pal, my pal, great guy. I guess he was already here earlier. But
the way I see it, if you're having to pass, there's a chance even for our not as talented people to make plays. So I'd rather do that than just get killed on the ground over and over again.
So Judge Shooty is an abbreviation for Jordan Shuttlewood. Sounds like one of your sponsors, Ryan. The Renob hardwood wax.
Shout out to the titty bear. That the TIDDY bear.
Yes, Jess says Raiders suck. I agree. Suck.
You know what? I realized. Did you know why?
Emilio corrected me. Sorry, Emiliano.
You know why the stadium was so packed with 49ers fans?
Why? Because we travel better than any other NFL team.
No, the Raiders fans' POs wouldn't let them go to the game.
Oh. Well, you know the difference between a Raiders fan and a Niners fan?
A rap sheet?
Niners fans like the outside of jail cells. Yeah.
Yes. Telling you. Can't
the
get
Raiders play their starters. They didn't play all their starters. They didn't play their stars, but I think they did play some of their starters.
Can't go to the stadium when your ankle monitor is setting off the metal detector.
Oh, boom. Yeah, not trying to show anything. So there was.
I understand, but God, this is the time when you do a basic 5-2 or a bear, whatever. Do basic. You don't have to just put men up front and make people make moves. Like, you have to be accountable at some point in time, even a preseason with trying stuff. I saw Kyle trying stuff.
There you go. Miliano says on the latest episode of Hard Knocks, Rodgers was openly talking SHI, you know what, about a particular play scheme in practice. Would Kyle desire his QB talking S about precious plays openly? Absolutely not. To my point, he doesn't want a Rodgers. He doesn't want a Brady. He doesn't want a Mahomes, I don't think. Until proven otherwise, I'm running with that narrative. That's what I've seen.
Can you imagine the look on his face if
someone Mac,
like
look
that
at Purdy,
came
look
out?
at Jimmy, look at all these guys. They're all the same. It's all the same guy. So I don't know. Go ahead, Ryan. I cut you off.
Oh, I'm just saying, could you imagine the face that Kyle would make if somebody started on the field being like, what the fuck is this trash, Kyle? What is this?
Yeah.
What? Everybody knows that this is Kyle. What are you doing?
Vanilla. Bryant says, I don't understand why the other QBs play well when they play with lesser weapons. Because we ran the ball and because the defense was a lot worse in the second half than it was to start the first half. So as the game wears on, you get scrubbier and scrubbier in preseason games. So the defense that Darnold faced was easier than the defense that Lance faced. And the defense that Allen faced was easier than one that Darnold faced. So that's why.
And I would say that the drop off in our wide receiver room isn't too much.
No.
From the second to third.
4 to 7 or 8. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. So, and when you're talking about Sam Darnold should have, I feel, should have looked better than what he did. But I'm not knocking him. First year in the system, pregame, preseason, I'm not knocking him. I just feel with his resume that he would do a little better than that. Right. But I think he did just fine for the situation. Like I said, I don't think Sam should worry about competing for anything just yet. I feel Sam should worry about getting the ghosts out of his closet and worrying about knowing the system and what's important on each play. And then he would be an amazing guy to come in case someone gets hurt halfway through the season, I feel, at that point. Because if he's got no ghosts and he could wield that offense, that's win-win, win-win.
Yeah. Some big ifs. Some big ifs.
Yeah, it's some big
Smith, I
ifs.
feel like I feel like y'all are forcing the trade thing because of what we gave up. Who cares? We have a stacked team, and those picks are in the past. It's not the picks. It's why we use the picks to get him. It's his traits that he has. That he has, elite, height, speed, arm, and it's also that he's put it into practice. Like he's had pretty much a wild play in about every game he's played, including the preseason game. There was a 20-yard rope that he threw to Conley, frozen rope, and everyone's like, "Oh, Purdy's throwing that pass." I'm like, "No, it didn't look like that." I'll tell you what, Purdy will throw a little rainbow that'll get there, but Lance's was a freaking laser. It was on a frozen rope. And
somebody was asking why Trey has so many balls batted down versus Brock Purdy, and that's one of it. It's how he throws. Also, yeah. Brock Purdy's shorter, so Brock Purdy's had a lot of practice of getting his balls up and over the defensive line. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like it could be just like a new world for Trey, that all of a sudden there's people who are just as tall, if not taller than him, in front of him. And now, Brock Purdy is just like, same old story.
And it's just experience in general. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, Purdy had 48 games in college. Lance only had 17. That's over, or just about 3 times as many. And I'll just say, like, yeah, Lance has had some wow plays. He's obviously had some ones that didn't look good. So we got to get his consistency up. And I do believe that will come with experience. So I'm not ever saying he's great right now. People are saying, "Oh, Ted thinks Lance is great." I don't think Lance is great. He's not. I called Purdy mid. Lance isn't even mid yet, but I could see him being mid. And I could see him being above that. I could see him being above average or good or very good by the end of the season if we actually give Lance a chance. Give Lance a chance. Anyway, that's probably shouting at the wind at this point, but I'm until I see him struggle with the first team, I'm gonna always say that I think we need to see it before we fully judge him. Because when he had the first team last year, it was in a monsoon. There was no Kittle. There was no CMC. Mitchell went down early. The O-line was atrocious, as was our entire interior offensive line was starting their first ever NFL starts, all 3 of them. And, Debo dropped, lost a fumble inside the red zone. That's 3 to 7 points. Gibson dropped a pick. So many things went wrong. The defense gave up drive extending plays on every single scoring drive. We had 100 yards in penalties when they only had 200 yards of offense. So like a third of their yardage production was handed to them by us. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. So like Lance didn't play great. He didn't, but like he was far from the biggest reason we lost that game in Chicago. And then against the Seahawks, we had 143 yards of offense with him in less than a quarter. Multiply that by 4, you're coming up on 600 yards for a game. And that was, there was still time left in the quarter for him to have done more if he hadn't gotten injured. So I just think that's the clear, illustration of the 11-on-11 football. Because then Jimmy came in and we averaged about 106 yards per quarter for 3 full quarters. You drop off 30 yards a quarter, and like I said, I mean, I think Lance would have gained more if he had that last minute or 2 in that first quarter after he got injured.
Also, Smitty, right? Those are in the past. But if we don't rub their nose in shit, those could also be our picks in the future that they shit down a hole again. So like, I just want them to be accountable and explain to us why they made this mistake. Because obviously they felt they had potential in him. Obviously that's why they picked him, right? But then they immediately go from picking him to then not doing anything with him. You know what I mean? Like not to say that he needed to start the first year. Okay. I think he did, but it here nor there. What they really needed to do one way or another is make sure he had his throwing mechanics and everything set up year one. So whether he's practicing with the team or not, I don't give a damn. If you're going to sit him on the bench and he's going to be the backup quarterback, I don't really want him to be the backup quarterback running the second team drill if he's got throwing mechanics he needs to work on. He can go and work on throwing mechanics with whoever needs to. And once you got your throwing mechanics straightened, you can come here and start doing practice. That's how I would deal with it. I'm using all my resources to try and figure out how to get you to be a more efficient quarterback with your throw, with how you compute the defense, essentially, how you're, all these types of things is what I'm trying to do for you because I spent all that capital on you. But I didn't see really anything. And like year two, man, the guy we sent you to last year, he wasn't really able to work things out and fix it, right? Oh, so let's maybe you should just go back. Not to say that they told him to go back, but if you didn't tell him not to go back and set him up with somebody else, you're just expecting the same results the next year, which how's that going to help you? To me, it's all poor planning and poor execution, all that, which really I don't see with how they treat everybody else on the team. I don't understand how the hell they do it. It makes how do you whiff on that one? You're turning sixth, fifth, seventh round players into gems, and you're gonna fumble on a first round quarterback that you spent 3 years of draft capital on, three first round draft picks on.
Well, this kind of goes to what Joe said. Does John Lynch get any blame from anyone, or is it just Kyle? And this is kind of ties into this in my mind. So Kyle has, final say on all personnel decisions. So anything he cares about, he can veto, or actually make the pick himself. And especially, that's going to happen on QB and wide receiver decisions. There's a highlight on those two, but you get the feeling like a lot of these third round picks are Kyle, and a lot of the late round picks are Adam Peters. And I really don't think any of them are John Lynch. If you want my honest opinion, nobody knows what goes on behind closed doors, but my honest opinion is that Lynch is sort of a figurehead for shaking hands and kissing babies, the intermediary between Jed and Kyle. But I don't think he does much scouting, and I don't think any scouting he does is widely highly valued. That's my opinion.
I think the pick doesn't really matter. So for Joe, yes, I believe John and Kyle both deserve some credit on this mess up, because if you're going to make that decision, no matter what player it is, right, you're going to need to follow through with it. They did not. They did not follow through with it whatsoever. And we can see that today by Trey's inability to do some of the stuff that we need, because he hasn't been there playing with people, because he's been off or subjugated to the second team because his throwing mechanics are off. So the moment you make that decision on Trey, it becomes both Kyle and John's responsibility to get Trey to where he needs to be. It's not like Trey is some problem, like outside of the 49ers. It's not like they're having to stop him from going to the club and beating up women. That's not what they're having to do here. It's really easy what needed to be done, and they sat on their hands this whole fucking time.
There you go. Smitty says, y'all act like the Niners are the only franchise to spend high picks on a QB and got it wrong. So far it looks like the wrong pick, but also it looks like maybe they handled it wrong. And also it's still TBD. So, I think
you can't say it's a wrong pick yet. You can't say it's a wrong pick yet.
Less than 5 starts, no chance.
Really kind of can't say whether it would, if it handled differently, would things have happened? We can't say that yet, because, if Trey works out, whether here or with another team, then you'll be able to say, oh, if he just got the right whatever he needed to get, he would have been good here. I don't think years down the road, he's like, he turns a page and goes, oh, this is what I needed the whole time. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, no, there's little things he needs to change all the way through his game that makes him the guy he needs to be. So I don't know. This is a stupid situation to be in. Thanks, Kyle and John, for not following through.
Real quick, 187 in the house. He's a big Purdy fan.
Got Panama Queen in the building.
Yeah, Panama Queen also.
Shout out
to
Panama.
our great viewers. Thanks for joining. Great audience members, very interactive. Bryant was asking, yes, do you think Trey is mobile?
Oh, see, I would have said yes, but like last game, it seemed like he was too busy looking downfield to notice what was going on in front of him. And I'm not saying that like any quarterback would have happened to any quarterback. I'm just saying for him at that point in time, he was not paying attention to what was going on.
No, there were 3 plays I would highlight where he was mobile for sure. Yes. I agree. He got sacked too much. And people confuse quickness with mobility.
No.
You know, Lance is not quick, but he is fast. Once he gets going, the guy flies. There's GPS of him going 21.54 miles an hour at North Dakota State, and that is blazing fast for an NFL QB. He exhibited it on the play where there was an unblocked rusher coming from the left from the D gap that the guard missed, and he got out. JT Sullivan credited him for turning nothing into something, getting a couple yards when it should have been a sack. There was the play where he ran out and threw it to Snead, and he almost crossed the line of scrimmage. Yep. And he said, this is what the 49ers have been missing for years. And we saw a little bit of it with Purdy from last year. I got that clip up on Twitter. You can check that out. And then also the TD. Like there was a guy in Lance's face, and he, granted it wasn't a great throw that he got off, but he did get the throw off despite having pressure in his face.
And Kyle even said that was a good play, which
glad he went for it.
I'm guessing what it was in Kyle's scheme, you throw that ball 100% of the time. You know what I mean? And so it was like, okay, he did exactly. See, that's what I'm saying. You don't have to worry about it being accounting for these interceptions if you just do what the scheme tells you. If you go off script, you have to account for all those interceptions. But when you do exactly what the system tells you at that point in time in the system, and all the boxes are checked, and something bad happens, that's not your responsibility. Your responsibility was to do everything up until that point where it got intercepted. So to me, obviously accuracy can change things, but I'm saying like that your accuracy should not stop you from throwing a ball in any real situation if you're an NFL quarterback. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? You should at least have the balls to be confident enough whether you got it or not. You fake it till you make it, bro.
Yeah, I'm with you. Bryant says we should have gotten a veteran QB, and somebody had an interesting comment where they said basically that franchise QB, none of those QBs want to be controlled by Kyle. So maybe it's not that Kyle didn't want those QBs. Maybe it's that the QBs didn't want Kyle, and that's why they're not here. We all know Brady wanted to come here, though, so I'm not buying it for Brady. But it's an interesting point of like, but is that any better? It's still just as damning. We don't have the franchise QB because of Kyle, whether it's because Kyle wouldn't pick them or they wouldn't pick Kyle. It's because of Kyle either way. So it's still an issue in my mind. And then Bryant said, how many chances does Trey get? And I'm like, how many chances does Trey need? Well, can we start with one, Bryant? Can we start with one chance with all the starters that Lance had, that Purdy had, and the same? He's not going to have McGlinchey, but the same O-line besides McGlinchey, with all the top weapons. Can we have one chance before we write them off? Do you mind in a game, please, Bryant? Pretty please.
How many chances do you give a kicker?
Oh, damn! Oh, that was like counterpunch. Dude. Ouch. Bryant's Kickers are people too, Ryan.
I
Kickers
know.
are people too.
I just thought, maybe there needed to be some, paralleled storyline added for context to kind of, we got to understand. And look, Bryant, we've talked about this. I thought that was a fluke. You know what I mean? I thought his kicks were a fluke and it's just nerves. He did miss
sure.
one.
I believe
He
in
did
Jake
miss
Moody.
one yesterday. Yeah.
I believe in Jake. I mean, he was really good in camp. So
yeah, because we didn't see any of this beforehand. All of a sudden, twice in one game, I'm just like, that's nerves.
Good in Michigan.
Yeah.
Harbaugh vouches for him. Like,
Yeah.
3 things you can count on: death, taxes, and Jake Moody. I trust Harbaugh. I don't think that's hyperbole. I think he meant it when he said it.
And if he's getting his misses out of his system this early on in the season, that's even better. Hell yeah. Go Jake. Yeah. I'm just saying, you got to understand, Bryant, you haven't seen him in a situation where things were going right and he got to actually play a whole game. He's either been thrown in, had injuries on the line or not the line, but on the team to where the point where people aren't able to play with him. No, I didn't write off Jake Moody.
Shots fired. Pew, pew, pew.
I'm giving you food for thought, Bryant. You know I love you and Jake Moody. Jake Moody. Hey, I'm all for Jake Moody. We were talking about drafting. Look, shout out to Bryant Culp. Bryant Culp was saying the 49ers would pick Jake Moody at pick 99, I'd say a month and a half before the draft. Bryant and I actually had a show where we're trying to talk people down off the ledge of when Jake Moody could possibly get picked with the 99th pick. Like, we did a show about that, I think a month beforehand, Bryant. I was like, Bryant, we need to talk about this because he had a great point. And so shout out to Bryant Culp. If you don't know about Bryant Culp, you're missing out. He has a great show Saturday and Sunday morning. I think they're starting to pop off at about around 8. I think they're going to try and move it to 8, but anywhere 8 or 9, make sure to check him out. He does great stuff over there. And his wife, Tony, also has a great channel, Empire, Ladies in the Empire, Saturday nights, 5 o'clock.
5,
yes.
5. Yeah.
Yes, make sure to check them out.
Outstanding stuff. Just real quick shout out to Eric Wallace, one of the few cool Seahawks fans, along with Joe Stevens. Those might be the only two I know.
What is it? What's his name? Seahawk Eddie.
Oh yeah, Seahawk Eddie. Sorry, Eddie. Yeah, 3 cool Seahawk fans. So not all bad, folks. That's crazy. Brock was thrown in. Brock was last pick in the draft. Brock just rough in practice. Like, what are you all looking at? LOL. Well, we're just looking at a guy who came in and he exceeded expectations, but expectations were really low for the last picked rookie, And so if you put expectations on NFL QBs, he's middle of the pack.
He was a Ritz cracker after being stranded on the island for 10 years.
That's right.
Shout out to Eddie Murphy.
That must be a Ritz.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just
that a Ritz?
crackers. That's what I'm afraid of is this year in the playoffs, we're like, damn, it's just plain old crackers. And then we're going to be like, shit out of luck again, no ring. And just, yeah. But hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully I'm wrong. And, I'm definitely rooting for the kid. I like him a lot. I'll say it again. I like Purdy a lot. I just like Lance's upside better. Lance is not better now. Hasn't proven it yet. But he hasn't been given the chance this offseason either. Let's be fair. He has not been given equal opportunity to prove that he could unseat Brock. Because Kyle doesn't want a QB controversy. And, Kyle doesn't want to, the other thing Kyle doesn't want, you tell me if this is tinfoil hat. Kyle doesn't want the QB to steal the spotlight from Kyle and the system.
The system is the star. No, I 100% agree with you there. Kyle, the system is the star. Why do you think everybody gets the ball?
Yeah.
Not just to move it around so nobody knows who's going to get the ball. It's also so nobody becomes the star.
Other than Debo in 2021 and CMC in 2022. But yeah, in general, he does. He kept Mostert down in 2019. I was pulling for Mostert way before the NFC Championship game.
That was so stupid.
I was so tired of Tico.
Actually, it might have been smart.
You got to save him. He's fresh. Yeah, because None of these guys can last. The speed guys.
Remember how I was saying save Elijah Mitchell till the last moment?
Do you think CMC is a speed running back?
No.
No, me neither. That's what we had this conversation.
He's
it's
smart
like super
and
quick,
elusive.
super quick, but he's not running away from anybody. Not for the whole length of a field. Not like the way Mostert did, or Breida, or any of those like super fast cats. He's not. He's fast and he's super quick, but
he'll break a 30-yard touchdown.
Incredibly elusive, but not
break a 30, 40-yard touchdown, but I don't see him breaking a 50, 60, 70. Yeah. No.
Not. I mean, we haven't seen much of it anyway. Yeah.
But we don't necessarily need that because we're trying to go down the field in increments, not chunks. But we're trying to, be able to get those increments whenever we want, aka every play.
Yeah.
So he's great in our system. Like he's probably the best running back we could have in our system who's playing now in the league.
Roger Craig 2.0 or Ricky Waters 2.0. Something we haven't had since Ricky Waters.
Saquon Barkley would be the second guy, I would think.
Yeah, Saquon. Alvin Kamara would be great too.
I don't think he's on the same level as them anymore. I think Kamara's fallen off.
I mean,
but he was back in his heyday. He would have been also what was his name? Running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers who started for them. Fournette, that guy on our team, the year they went to the Super Bowl, if we could have him, it would be game, set, match.
Playoff Lenny.
He'd be smacking people in the face. It was.
Well, we probably would have had him if we had gotten Brady. If I would have had him, Gronk, well, we wouldn't have got AB because he's a character risk, but I bet we would have got Fournette and Gronk if we had gotten. It was a package deal that year.
So Laybourne, Panama Queen brings up something. Oh, sorry. You want to address Smitty here?
I'm almost there. Kyle wants to win now, not have any more QB issues. Yeah, but I'm just saying there's no proof that win now is September. To me, there's no proof that Lance couldn't be better by then. But I'm not saying it's likely. I'm just saying, don't go off what you saw Sunday. Go off what you see by the time the third preseason game comes around.
Also,
it had been 11 months since Lance had taken a hit. So that makes a big difference. And remember, this will be the first time Purdy's taken a hit since the NFC Championship game when he comes in and plays. So
I would point out that even if Brock Purdy was ready to go week 1, all cleared 100% like he was last year, that doesn't mean we wouldn't have a quarterback controversy next year. Anything could happen. We could get another injury from Brock. You know what I mean? Anything could happen and we could be in the same boat again. So just saying, just because certain things happen doesn't mean it's the end all beyond.
There you go. So, Panama Queen doesn't want to hear nothing about Laybourne.
No, she doesn't hear anything about Laybourne. So the reason being, I feel, is Kyle's going to try and
stash him on the practice squad.
Yes. He's going to stash.
I
don't think he's gonna get very many reps, and I
keep
think
him under wraps. Not reps.
I think if he ends up breaking one, he won't be seen the rest of the night.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I like players on the team, but if they don't make it, sorry, I just hate them. I just wish them. I don't hate them. I just wish them well. Yeah, I mean, I wish Jimmy well. On the Raiders, I don't think he's gonna do well with that defense.
Is he talking about Jimmy?
Well, in general, I mean,
I think he's talking about like a Trey or.
Oh, well,
but actually, he might even talk about. I would definitely wish
Trey well. I mean, it's a whole different situation because Trey never got a chance here. Jimmy
might also.
Jimmy got how many chances did Jimmy need? That's the question, right? Jimmy got way more chances than he needed, than I wanted to see. So that's why I'm a little bitter with Jimmy. But Trey, totally exact opposite, polar opposites.
He might be talking about Jake Moody because he says later on, if Zane Gonzalez makes the team, I will get a Gonzalez jersey.
Nice. No, I mean, I think we'll carry 2 kickers if Zane beats him out. I think we'll have 2 kickers on the 53-man roster. It's a horrible situation, but you can't put Moody out onto the practice squad as a 3rd-round pick, the first drafted kicker in the draft. You can't expose him to the
practice waiver wires. No,
he'll be gone. He be gone. someone smart will figure that out. So Smitty says Fournette was an assa, but I see why y'all can't evaluate talent. Was and is anyway. Not sure what you meant, but Fournette was a good pass catcher. Is the nice thing about Fournette. I think that's what Ryan was getting at. Yeah, and in fact, Fournette. Interesting factoid I was talking about: Gronk, Fournette, and AB coming along the package with Brady. Guess who scored all the touchdowns in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs? 2 for Gronk, 1 for AB, and 1 for Fournette. Not one legacy Bucks weapon scored a TD in that Super Bowl. Only the new guys. Viking, and I was saying, "What up, boys? Welcome,
what
Viking."
Up, Vikings? He finished extremely hard. He would finish his plays extremely hard, and that's why when I saw him, I was like, he's got that Niner in him."
It just needed a happy ending, I guess. Sorry. Panama Queen says, "How y'all feel about the 9 sacks we had yesterday?" Yeah, it was abysmal. Our O-line was trash. Makes it really hard to evaluate anything the QBs did when they have no time to throw, especially Trey Lance was the one who got the most. And a lot of it was not just the O-line. It was Kyle not calling run plays. We're run first. We had I don't know if I threw this out yet, but out of the 75 QBs who played this last round of games, the first week of preseason, only 5 had a higher pressure rate on them than Trey Lance had. So that's less than 7% had more pressure per play than Trey Lance. So, O-line was abysmal. The play calling was abysmal. We're run first team. You got to run the ball to keep the defense honest, to make run fakes work, to make, to keep the defense from just pinning their ears back and coming, on a bull rush every time, and smearing poor defenseless Trey Lance back there, because he's mobile, but if you're stuck on your mark and you hit your back foot and there's a guy in your face, there's not much you can do in that situation.
I don't know if we're
that's
necessarily
on the O-line and the play caller, not the QB.
I don't know if we're necessarily a run first team anymore, because we could be, but when Purdy was in last year, it seemed to me like we were passing a lot more than we were running. Maybe not a lot more, but we were passing more than our regular run the ball 35, 40 times a game type. And our stats kind of showed it, because I think we were number 2 in the league for what was it? We were second last as far as, was it attempts or air yards, and then we were second in actual passing yards as far as per play or whatnot. So or receiving yards. So I think we're kind of switching over to being more of a half and half team. I think Sean McVay and his Super Bowl win with the Rams might be the catalyst for this. The fact that we can't just run down the field and score within 2 run plays, and that we need to be able to pass at times to do quick scores. I think Kyle's evolving his scheme a little bit more to kind of be a little more even. But I wouldn't say that, running the ball 40 times a game is out the window, because I feel he might definitely revert back to that for certain opponents.
Yeah, if you can move the ball running it, then why not? Just pound him into submission. Bryant says, if Moody can't beat out Gonzalez, then why would you keep Jake Moody? Why would we care? The Gonzalez trade makes Jake Moody a wash. Well, Gonzalez trade was just basically like a pick swap in 3 years. So it's about as little of a trade as you can possibly trade, and there's no guaranteed money for him this season. So it's a perfect situation to have him in camp. And then if we don't like him, we cut him, and it was barely any draft capital that we expended and no money at all. So, I guess, if you could try and trade Jake Moody if Gonzalez beats him out, but I don't know what you could get for an unproven kicker. You'd take a huge loss on that. I think they keep him for a year. That's my thought. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
It's probably what I would do. I have a feeling that Cameron Latu isn't as talented as other people in the position, but I think he's going to make the squad because they spent a 3rd round pick on him.
3rd round pick.
And I feel they see that he could be a Kittle in a couple years. So
Michael believes in Moody. There you go. Bryant says we ain't keeping 2 kickers. It would be tough, especially the way we like to keep extra D linemen or an extra running back or an extra whatever, the O lineman, whatever. Or we're passing more because Kyle found someone that can run his entire offense. LOL.
No, there could be something said to that. Or somebody he feels that he's got more of chemistry with. Look, Kyle was sending in plays that they hadn't even practiced because he felt that the team, just by knowing what the call is, they could execute it perfectly by the end of the season. So that's not just on Brock, but that's on the whole team. So there's definitely something to be said for that, Smitty. But that's not everything. Just because you got a player doesn't mean that someone doesn't want to already transition to that style of an offense. You know what I mean? It just means that they feel they can at that point.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see what happens for sure. I mean, I think part of it has to do with the defenses you're playing. I think part of it was, Debo was banged up a little bit there, and so was Elijah Mitchell. So you don't want to run CMC into the ground. So passing is a little bit safer.
You had CMC too, which he's going to account for runs and he's going to account for passes. So you're using him in both. And look, one of the smartest plays I seen the Niners run last year consistently was a fake handoff to CMC and then turn around and throw it to him after the linebackers were like, okay, he's not getting the ball. He's going out into pass coverage. They kind of get back in their zone. And that gives him the space to catch the ball and make a move on them. So to me, I think that's also something that should be thought about.
No doubt about it. Well, I think we've covered most everything here. It's been an hour.
A Friday night show? Is this
45 minutes? It's a long one for me, that's for sure.
That's a banger.
Especially I stood on this very uncomfortable stool to get me high up. Oh, also just want to quickly shout out Miss Deb, Top Hat Deb, gave me this top hat, so now it's now part of the show. And also got a new visor, so sporting that today for the first time.
I got my No BS hat that Bryant Culp, shout out Bryant Culp, made for me.
There you go. Bryant,
I think
great
Tony,
work.
He picked out the hat. Tony put it on there. Shout out to Tony Culp.
There you go. There you go. Well, thanks everybody who came to join today. It was a great show, great interaction. If you make sure if you're on my channel, get over to No Border Sports and like and subscribe for Ryan. Same thing if you're on No Border Sports, please hop over to TED Talks Ball and give me a like and subscribe too. I should be coming right up on that 500 mark. So it'll be exciting. It's first level of monetization for me. I've been grinding hard to get here, and it'll help me to keep doing shows for you guys. So even if you hate watch me, you still got to support me, or else I may not be able to keep doing it for too much longer. So there we go. Bebop says Miss Deb is the queen. Smooth says good show. Bebop says we're not worthy. Little Wayne's World. Diddle-a-doo, diddle-a-doo, diddle-a-doo.
We're not worthy. We're not
And Nathan
worthy.
says great show. Thanks, Nathan. Thanks everybody who tuned in. I'll just say peace and go Niners. Oh, Ryan, what you got going on coming up? Always promote our other
tomorrow
stuff.
I've got a show with Joe Stevens called The Rivalry on Joe Stevens Seahawk Talk channel. So
There you
make
go.
sure to check that out, 6 p.m. And then Friday nights I got a show. We might be changing up the day, who knows? But this week, Friday night, 6 p.m. we go till about I don't know, sometimes 11, sometimes 12. It's a good show, 5-6 hours long. So
it's
tune
amazing.
on in.
So today I have Steph Sanchez at 1:45.
Oh, Steph is awesome.
She is. I was at camp with her. I got to meet her at camp for the first time. And then Aaron, First and Ted, with me at that's a 1:45 Pacific for Steph and 4:45 Eastern. And then Aaron, obviously 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 Eastern, First and Ted. We do it every week. I should have that out soon. I've got the link, so I should be able to do that as soon as we get off. And then tomorrow I have Randon McMahon. He's on at 10. And then Pedro Burge, my co-host, weekly co-host from Australia, down under. We will go live. We go live every Thursday at 2:45 Pacific, 5:45 Eastern, and it's I think 7:45 a.m. Sydney where he streams from. And then it looks like Amin the Dream might be on. I think 3:15 on Friday. We're still finalizing, but he was worried because I have like a 4:10 cutoff, and I'm like I'd rather have a little bit of the dream than maybe a lot of most other folks. So hopefully we'll see Amin on Friday. We'll see.
He's got the best hair in the whole 49ers content creating circle. I'm just gonna go out there.
Steph too. I got like this week.
Hair.
Yeah, but this week I got putting me to shame, no doubt about it. But yeah. So everybody, make sure you tune in, like and subscribe to No Border Sports. Same thing if you're on there. Hop over to mine, and otherwise I'll just say peace and go Niners.
F the Lambs. Shout out David McKnight.